So the mirror reflection, we're seeing the opposite of ourselves in each other.
He is talking about destiny, and we have some type of protagonist, antagonist situation going on, which makes for great fodder. And you've got very smart guys in Destiny and Andrew Wilson. I don't care what Andrew Wilson fans say. Destiny, Stephen Bonnell is extremely smart, a good debate bro. Otherwise, Andrew Wilson wouldn't waste time with him, even if he had a big platform. But let's get into this. This is part 2 of our reaction of an introspective look. This would be like an episode of Batman, the movie or animated series or comic book, where our hero, Batman, Andrew Wilson, in a way, is introspective about his place and what could have been in another timeline.
What I would have been if I was a complete degenerate, right? A Coomer degenerate.
Finish him.
Would be a Destiny. And what he would be if he was a right-winger who focused on Christian ethics and the values that come with Christian ethics, he'd be me. And so because that parallel exists, people, of course, they enjoy watching us interact, even though both of us tend to hate interacting with each other. Both of us.
I think he actually uses the Batman Joker. I already saw this, but I didn't remember that, so I probably got it from, I think he says that later on.
Hate it. And I think that that's why. You can see yourself in another person, not because they reflect who you are, but they reflect what you easily could have been.
Yep.
Just letting you know, Godfather Imperious is trashing you on, I don't care, dude. I don't give a shit about that.
I see that as a father in my son and him doing little things. I don't know, like, sometimes I'm forgetful, like I'll leave my phone or a sweater somewhere and just keep and go, mine is like a butterfly. It might be that ADHD or whatever. The attention deficit disorder, where you're flighty, and I can kind of see it in him. I'm like, oh, it's obviously different than this, but it's like, oh, I don't want you to be me, the negative parts of me, but let's get back to it.
Okay. But because it's a reflection of what easily you could have been. The last Pierce Morgan was civil, though. Sure, yeah. I mean, we've had many civil discussions, and we've also had drag out slugfest fights, right? And brutal debates back and forth. And we've engaged like this for years, and it likely won't stop anytime soon, right? All roads lead to the fact that we will likely debate again at some point. Whether he blacklists me or I blacklist him, we end up seemingly to always come into the fray because there's enough people whose worldview we represent that they want to see those worldviews clash in front of the neutral audience, of which there are many. Thing that's interesting is that you can look at the industry which exists around both streamers. In this case, if you look at the industry which has arisen around Destiny, a lot of the what you would call orbiters, or the idea that this guy is such a large planet, right, as far as a streamer goes, that the kind of smaller planets get caught in his gravitational well and they can't escape. Some people actually want to put themselves in that gravitational well. They don't want to escape. They want to utilize it in order to create stability in their streaming career, because ordinarily they would not have one absent him. The price some of those people pay, of course, is their penis, in Destiny's case, in order to have that sort of gravity, which keeps them inside of the pool of that formation, of that kind of planetary formation. Now, ultimately, what happens with this guy is that he likely is gonna be able to walk away from this. He likely will, after everything, all the fallout and this and that, and it's because the kind of moral standards in which the left holds. It's almost impossible to hold leftists to account to their own moral standards because they basically don't really have any. They don't really have any. There's nothing really grounding there. The Alinsky idea of holding the enemy to its own standards because they can never kind of meet those standards doesn't apply with a lot of these modern progressives because their moral standard is just do as thou wilt, as long as you're not subjectively hurting somebody else.
I will add to that. I think Destiny exhibits this. Their moral standard is actually to believe in the establishment, to believe in government, believe it or not. That's the one thing that they don't play with. You fire federal employees, they get hurt by it because most federal employees are not, right or MAGA. They're not left either. They're just corporate. They're just things. In Destiny, during the pandemic and on to now, well, he says, well, we should keep the Department of Education. He doesn't have any good, as smart as he is, nothing to articulate it. Let's get back to Andrew Wilson. Let me know if that's an accurate assessment. That I do honestly believe that their religion is, their faith is in this government, which is daddy, which is God. And that includes Stephen Bunnell.
Which just comes down to, again, whatever enough of a group of shared preferences says isn't harm. You two are like the debate sphere, Batman and Joker. Yes, yep. But depending on which side of the aisle you're on, depends on which one of us is Batman and which one of us is Joker, right?
That's the fun of it. Yep.
When people, they go, wait a second, Destiny's in an open relationship with a woman, passing her around, right? And she's allowing,
not gonna lie, like really attractive women too,
him to be passed around. Intuitively, men understand that things that we value, we tend not to share. For instance, if you have a very rare car, something like this, you usually don't let other people drive it. Not even if they're your closest friends.
He's so good with
the things you value the most, you tend to let other people have the least amount of contact with.
Yep.
I don't know why it works that way, but it does work that way. So if you're one of those people who shares your wife, from most people's perspective, you probably don't value her very much because how could you value something that you let other people play with, right? What's the value there? The same thing happens the opposite direction. So a great argument against polygamists. How much a woman value you if she's willing to share you? Generally will come down to the polygamist saying that it's always part of a woman's nature. They don't mind sharing men. It's part of their nature. Yeah, they mind sharing men. Of course they mind. Unless, of course, they're one of these women in an open relationship, right? You're a Batman, Destiny. You are Batman to Destiny as the Joker. Kisses, I love you. Okay. So ultimately, this whole thing can be basically tracked, this kind of arc of Destiny. You can maybe say it's the final kind of major arc that you may see as far as the world of controversy goes. There's not much more, I think, that he could do to kind of outdo this, though it's possible. It's always possible. But this one's particularly brutal. It all moved down from the idea of it starts with the open relationship, and the downside comes from there. All the downfall comes from this. And it's crazy. It's crazy that anybody objectively can take a look at anybody else who has an open relationship and tell them that's not going to work. Not going to work for you or anybody.
But I will say it depends on what your goal is. But I know what Andrew Wilson means. I'm not trying to knock him. I agree with him completely.
But every single time they always seem to kind of come back with this idea of, well, it's not hurting anybody, so therefore it's okay. You can see the poison kind of well up in these people over time till it hits a breaking point. And one form of degeneracy always seems to lead towards another, doesn't it? Always seems to lead towards another. This industry, to be fair to Destiny, when you have people making videos about him now who've been collecting 3 years plus data.
Yeah, he's a figure pretty much. I mean, not like a celeb like Kanye West or anything, but within these circles, he's well known. So much data, hours every day of data that you can just clip stuff. It's amazing how little people have on him. If he didn't do these things behind the, closed doors recording them, probably wouldn't have much on him. This is the end of the second part. Thank you for joining After Show Carnage. This is one of my favorite Andrew Wilson videos so far, believe it or not, because you see a different side of him. I'm going through his catalog. I was like, man, this is deep. It's like he got on the couch for this one. Uh, Let me know what you think. We'll go to part 3 here and close it up. If you want to see more, give a like, give a comment, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you.
On the guy. Poison kind of well up in these people over time till it hits a breaking point.